practice exam, which is you're going to be dealing with on Friday. Be sure you practice logging in and uploading sometime. All right, you're going to have a 30-minute write and a 15-minute write. Let's look at the 30-minute write first. It's going to be this format. They're going to give you an image, and read this prompt before you look at this PowerPoint. Then it's going to give you the prompt, and then it's going to give you a choice of two images. So what you're going to do is you're going to write 30 minutes about this image and then one of these images, so you have some choice. You don't have to use these two on the list, but they're usually good. If there's another one you want to write about that fits the theme, okay. Otherwise, their choices tend to be quite good if you go with their choices. All right, after you read this prompt, the language is complex, so the most important thing, read it slowly and carefully, reread it if you have to, have scratch paper by your desk, figure out what they're asking, and then don't begin till you have a good idea of what the prompt is. So when you read this one carefully and you break it down, what it's really about, it's about art that conveys aspects of cultural and national identity. It's about cultural or national identity. That's what this prompt is about. And it's this image and then one from the list. If you look further, it goes point by point. There's 1 point here, similarity, 1 point here, difference, and 1 point here about the values of this other culture. So what does this mean? When you go in, there's a couple, you could do a compare and contrast. Sometimes it's easiest just to follow the prompt. So the first point is talk about similarities in cultural and national identity. How are they similar? Visual characteristics. When they say visual characteristics, that's the form, you just look at it. What do you see? Those are the visual characteristics. So the similarity, these are both about national identity. This is about the Plains Indians of Wyoming. This is about Mexico. So they both deal with national identity. How are they similar? They both talk about the past. This one talks about hunters and buffalo and teepees. This one talks about the Mexican Revolution, the conquest of the Spaniards, and the dictatorship of Diaz. So they both look at the past. How are they different? They're different in the sense visually that this one is painted on an elk hide, and this one is a public mural in a city. This one is an ancient form of indigenous art. This is a modern public mural. And then if you looked at it visually, this would show people from the Mexican Revolution and the conquest of Mexico. This one would show a hunter hunting a bison and a teepee on the plains. So they're different in that regard. Then number 3, this is the hardest part. Similarities of the values in which each work was created, and then use symbols or context. Context of information, symbols and symbols. This was tough, but here it is. This was painted in 1900, but it's talking about the past, the way they used to live on the Plains Indians. This is painted in 1936, but it's talking about the past history of Mexico. So 1900 industrial America does not value Native American culture. And modern Western society in 1936 does not value the history of the poor, the history of the revolutionaries, the history of the oppressed. So for this one here, you can either do symbolically and you just say, this shows Pancho Villa and the Mexican Revolution. That's iconographic. This shows a bison, a sacred animal, being hunted by a warrior, or context would just be information. So those are the 3 parts there. On the 30-minute write, hopefully you get both, but remember, it's actually the rubric is half the points are coming from this work and half points coming from the second work. So at least try to write about one. Hopefully you get both, but don't give up on a prompt. If you know one, write about one. And you could either write about this work first and then that work, or you could just follow along, one paragraph on similarities, one on differences, and one on the values. Okay. Then the other one, so that's going to be a 30-minute write, and that will be number 1. Then the second one's going to be a 15-minute write, and this is going to be something, they will give you an image like this, and they'll say something like this. And so there's 3 points here: similarities, continuity with tradition, change from tradition, and context. Let's just go point by point. First of all, on this kind of prompt, when they say tradition, you want to go backwards. So for this painting, when you go backwards, you're going to go to and here's the official prompt. Specific visual evidence, meaning look at it. How does it show continuity with artistic traditions? What does it look like? So in this case, the Renaissance is traditional. It's beautiful. Naturalism, idealism, linear perspective, shading, modeling, divine beauty, perfect illusion, maybe classical symbols. All right, so that's traditional. So then you put them side by side. What does this one have that is traditional? It does have linear perspective. It does have naturalism. It does have idealism. It does have beauty. It has shading. It has modeling. It has the perfect illusion. So it shares that with the Renaissance. And you only need 2 of those, by the way. Any 2 of those would score. Now it says, how does it change? So then you look at it again. Well, how is it different? Well, this one is secular. This one's not from the Bible. This woman is not Mary. This woman does not have a halo or symbol or Christian icons. This one has hidden symbols like the scale, like Jesus on the wall. This one, the texture is much more detailed. This one used oil paint. This one, the light is golden. It's reflected in the window and in the frame. That's the difference between the 2. This one is Baroque. This one is Renaissance. This one is Dutch. This one is Italian. Then, so that's just looking at it visually. Then for context, remember, context is knowledge. You can't see it, it's what you know. And so, well, why is this one different? And then here we go again. This one's Catholic, this one's Protestant. This is Italy in the south, this is Dutch in the north. This is Renaissance, this is Baroque. This is 1400s, this is 1600s. This is religious, this is secular. This is for it, the purpose is it's for a church, it's religious. This one's private because the person wants it on their wall. This one's painted by a monk. This one's painted by Vermeer. This one's tempera, this one's oil, this one's from the Bible, or a famous person from the Bible, that one's an actual woman. Okay, so I went overboard there, you just need 2 each. So whatever the work is, go backwards, and then what does it look like? How are they similar? How are they different? And then context is you break out your art history, you explain why. All right, so that's the format, 1 30-minute and 1 15-minute.